Your time is valuable, so I'll get straight to the point. At the end of my last video, I stated that there would be no difference in performance between my M1 MacBook Air and an M3 Pro based MacBook Pro. Those conclusions were based on the tests of other YouTubers, so I decided that I needed to get real hardware in my hands. I picked up a 15-inch M3 based MacBook Air with 24 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. After running two simple tests, these are my results. So I took a piece of footage that was 13 minutes and 41 seconds long in Final Cut Pro, and I did an export. So the M3 based MacBook Air did it in 33 minutes and 23 seconds. My M1 MacBook Air, which is at this point 4 years old, did the same export in 34 minutes and 6 seconds. That means there's only a difference of 43 seconds between my M1 MacBook Air and an M3 MacBook Air. I also did some transcoding in Handbrake, and the M3 MacBook Air was only 8% faster compared to my M1 MacBook Air. So obviously that the performance delta between these two machines is so small, there is no tangible benefit to spend over $1,600 for an M3 based MacBook Air. All right, here's the rest of the review. The reason why I picked up the M3 MacBook Air is because I was expecting performance improvements across the board. I thought the Wi-Fi would be faster, I thought starting up and shutting down would be quicker, and I thought loading big applications such as Final Cut would be a little bit snappier. However, in all of these domains, the M3 MacBook Air failed to yield any significant performance improvements compared to my 4-year-old M1 MacBook Air, and that is where the disappointment started to set in. I expected to see some improvements in the Wi-Fi because I thought Apple would have redesigned the antennas inside of the 15-inch Air. However, after running the speed test, there was zero difference in performance between my M1 Air and the 15-inch, and that right there was already setting me up for disappointment. When it came to startup and shutdown times, I would have expected that the 15-inch Air would have a definite advantage because it was using a brand new installation of Mac OS. However, once again, when it came to starting up the operating system and loading everything into the background, there was no difference between the 15-inch and the 13-inch. And finally, when it came to opening large apps such as Final Cut Pro, again, zero difference between the two. And once again, I thought with a fresh installation of the operating system and applications, I was really expecting the 15-inch Air to be a lot faster, or at least noticeably faster compared to the M1. As I was looking at the synthetic benchmarks of the M3 versus the M1, I was seeing performance improvements of 25%, 35%, and in the case of Blender, I was seeing that the M3 was beating out the M1 by a factor of 60%. So when I looked at those numbers, I felt confident that I could pick up an M3 MacBook Air and I'd be seeing those performance differences in my Final Cut editing as well as in my Handbrake transcodes. However, as I said at the beginning of the video, those synthetic numbers did not line up with reality because in the Final Cut export, as you saw in the beginning, it only made a difference of 43 seconds when the final export time was well over 30 minutes. And in the case of my handbraking codes, I only saw a difference of 19 frames per second between the M3 chip and the M1 in my MacBook Air. There's this really great YouTuber named Art Is Right, and he does a lot of real-world testing comparing the various MacBooks. And as you can see from his charts and performance data, there really isn't that much of a difference between the M1 and the M3 processor. Finally, in his review of the M3 Max MacBook Pro, Marquez said there was no difference in his workflow between the M1 Max and the M3 Max, and as a result, he canceled his order for the 16-inch M3 Max MacBook Pro. More recently, in his M4 review, he said that there is a difference between the M4 and the M1 that tempted him to purchase a new machine. So my hope is that next year, when the new MacBook Air comes out with the M4 chip, there will be enough architectural changes in that M4 to really make it worth my while to upgrade from the M1 to an M4 system on a chip. So what did I learn after all of this? I'm the one who set myself up for disappointment. I can't blame Apple or Luke Miani or MaxTech or anyone else who runs synthetic benchmarks. This is all on me. And looking back on it, I should have listened to other creators such as Just Josh, Mark Ellis Reviews, and even Marquez. People who said that in real-world performance, they didn't see any difference from either their M1 Max or the M2 Max MacBook Pro. So I should have relied more on real world testing, but at the end of this is on me, and I did end up returning this laptop. And I will say that if you look at this laptop purely on its own, this is a really good system. I love the form factor of the 15-inch M3 MacBook Air, the fact that they are able to pack in a 15-inch display in a system that is so thin and light that when you put it in your bag, it doesn't weigh that much at all. You can barely feel it. I think that is quite an accomplishment on the part of Apple to really reduce things and get it all down to this form factor. And this is a really great system. And I'm going to say, if it performed just at least a little bit better, somewhere where I can feel the differences in processing power, I would have kept this 15-inch M3 MacBook Air. But as it stands, $1,600 or $1,700 for a laptop is a lot of money. I can't really justify it based on its performance, but as I said, the disappointment is on me, and that's just the way it is. All right, that's about it. Peace.